Working Fans Podcast. Cool.
Yep.
All right, here we go. Coming down 3, 2.
Welcome back for another week of the Working Fans Podcast. This is AJ. I'm the former wrestler. We've got Dave, the ultimate fan, here with us. As we do every week, our producer Joe likes to make us sound good and makes us look way more professional than we actually are. As always, you can find us on Twitter, that's @FansWorking, Facebook, Working Fans Pod. We've got email where you can reach out to us and please contact us to let us know what you think of the podcast and for any ideas that you might have. That's workingfanswrestlingpod@gmail.com. We're on Instagram where you can keep up with us at workingfanswrestling_pod. And then you can now listen to us on all major platforms, including Anchor.fm. We're on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Podcsdt, Radio Public, Apple Podcasts, and you can actually check us out on YouTube. Now, it's important when you go onto the Apple Podcasts and YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us a rating, let us know what you think so you can help us out and we can continue to do what we love and bring you guys in as fans.
Welcome to the 531, where we debate a top 5 list on a particular subject, further discuss it down to a top 3, and then eventually settle on a top 1. Now after this beat, we'll get to today's subject. Welcome back for another week of the 531. This week, we're doing the top 5 WrestleManias. First off, I got Chris Zauha from Rockin' Randy's Rockin' Wrestling Group.
Zauha.
And he's got 3, 17, 19, 23, and 30.
Okay. I think we're going to see 3 and 17 out here a lot.
Do you think it's weird that Randy Osgood is not a member of the Rockin' Randy Wrestling Group?
You would think he'd be the founder, but is he more rocking it or is he more rolling?
He's both.
He could be both.
If you met Randy, he's rocking and he's rolling, baby. He's rolling.
So who do you got first on your list, Dave?
All right, I'm going to go with Sal Rinauro of NWA Wrestling fame, former guest of this show. He gave me a real in-depth list. Excuse me, fellas. He had number 1, he had WrestleMania 12. That was the first time he ever attended a show, and he was all about the boyhood dream with Shawn Michaels. That sounds a little weird saying that out loud, but he was really a big fan of that promo and that angle.
It was a coming-of-age moment.
Yes. He also liked WrestleMania 31. He said he thought that was the best of the modern era, and he I think had a big thing with that was because, that was where Seth Rollins cashed it in. And I did like that ending, where Brock was wrestling Roman. It was actually one of the better matches Roman ever had, because I thought Roman shit the bed the following couple of years in the WrestleMania main events with Triple H, Undertaker. But that one with Brock was very hard-hitting, and then Rollins cashes it in at the big surprise. So I like that one personally, too. 17 was great. He said, I know it's near sacrilegious not to have this as your number 1, and it's hard to argue that. But he just, he had preferences for the other ones. So WrestleMania 20, the moment at the end, I think that validated, Benoit and Guerrero. That was huge for him. And his number 5 was WrestleMania 10. He just said, I love the new generation.
Okay, I want to say something real quick here. And I know that's a surprise because I don't say a lot. But Sal Rinauro, love you. You're great. Love watching you on NWA. However, 31 is a piece of shit WrestleMania. Other than Seth Rollins, it was just straight garbage. What they did to Sting and the way they felt that the WWE finally had to bury WCW by burying the icon Sting, it just left a bad taste in my mouth. And I think you might be the only person ever to actually enjoy what they did to Sting.
I don't know if he enjoyed that particular part, but he did enjoy. It was a good show in a lot of ways. If that soured you, if you're just a huge WCW fan, and more important, if you were a little Stinger, I could see where that would upset you. But
I fall into all of those categories.
for the most of the part, Piss on that, as the great Steve Austin would say. And I say, let's go on to another list.
All right, so for the next list, I've got Kevin Dignam from the Rockin' Randy's Rockin' Wrestling Group. He's got WrestleMania 3, 13, 14, 19, and 24.
Love to see 14 getting some love.
To make a horrible pun, Kevin, I'm digging him.
All right. Well, I'll go into Zach next here. And we'll do, because Zach was pretty in-depth too. Zach had WrestleMania 4, and he says right away it wasn't the best card, but it was the first WrestleMania he ever watched. Had a lot of nostalgia for it. He loved the tournament format. He also had 14 because he was there. He had WrestleMania 3, his number 3 pick was WrestleMania 18, rather. And that was because of Hogan and Rock and Taker and Flair. I mean, you got to give it to him. Hogan and Rock was just tremendous. Although I will say this, try watching that match without the crowd. It doesn't probably hold up as well. 10 makes this list as well. Bret Owen, Razor HBK ladder match, and Bret getting the title off of Yoko. Not a bad Mania. Got to watch that one with my boy AJ here. That's right. We've been friends that long. Watched that live. And number 1 was WrestleMania 30. Basically because he loved the Bryan story of Daniel Bryan winning it. And he did say it was so historic, Brock ending the streak. Never saw it coming.
I got to tell you, all around good list except for WrestleMania 4. We've known Zach since he was a young lad and only about 5'10". And I can tell you, he's a wrestling fan through and through. So the fact that he put that horrible, horrible tournament with no good matches on it inside of the bracket, I'm absolutely shocked and shell-shocked.
I'm going to argue 30 was like a modern classic and might have brought back the name of WrestleMania for a year. With that Bryan story.
Absolutely.
Now, Jason DiAugustino from Rockin' Randy's Rockin' Wrestling Group had WrestleMania 3, 4, and 5, 17, and 2000.
Wow.
AJ, you want to read one off here?
Oh, sure.
How about our
What
boy
about-
Logan Creed?
wait a
MLW
minute.
superstar Logan Creed. Sorry, AJ.
He actually ruined what I was going to say. I was going to say, wait a minute, are you talking about MLW superstar Logan Creed? Logan Creed with a great list here. Really the only flaw in there we'll talk about in a second. We've got 19, which is Austin's last match. We've got 31, which we already talked about. It was a shame what they did to Sting. We've got 20, and then we've got one of my least favorite WrestleManias, WrestleMania 3, and then 17.
And Logan Creed has actually something to promote this week, July 19th. He will be wrestling on a show at the Furniture Factory in Huntsville, Alabama. Tickets are $20. This is for New South Pro Wrestling. The bell time is 7 p.m. And for more information, you can dial 256-324-9096 or just look up Furniture Factory Bar and Grill on Facebook for information.
The really cool part about this is that without my glasses on, Logan Creed looks like Hawk in that picture.
He looks like a giant Luke Gallows if you ever get to see him.
No, I know he looks like that in general, just
Looks
without
like he
my
ate
glasses.
Luke Gallows, no
Yeah.
offense. Logan, love you, buddy.
Now, Ryan Damon from Rockin' Randy's Rockin' Wrestling Group had 3, 14, 17, 30, and 35.
Awesome.
35 might be the newest one that pops up on any list, I'm guessing.
Also, Royce Isaacs, former guest of the show, and another NWA superstar.
Also, tremendous artist.
Yes, artwork. Check it out at Royce Isaacs on his Twitter. He's got some great drawings you want to check out there.
I like to see that people are expressing their art in other ways than wrestling. And I think during the pandemic is a really good time to see what else guys can do. Now, Royce told us to check out his art, and I was like, holy shit. Like, you hear about people drawing, but it's not too often you're like, you have to check out what this guy is doing. Just like with Jake St. John's poetry.
Yeah.
Dave, we're not talking about your photographs. Please put those away.
So give us Royce's list now that we spent a minute putting him over.
Yeah, because he's great. 17, 20, 30, 21, and 10. Obviously, I think 17 is good. No 3 on his list, though. So that's interesting.
I wonder if it's different being in the business, how you look at WrestleMania.
Well, that's why I kind of wanted some input. Like when Sal asked me, should I give you some input? I was interested.
Oh, yeah. You want to see the thought process behind it.
Exactly.
Do you look at it as a worker, or are you always in that place as a fan?
Yeah, and I'll say this too, even if I want to say it was with Danny Moff, I asked this too. I like to ask these guys sometimes about their fandom. Like when they start off as a fan of wrestling, but then you get into business, do you change what you like and what you look for?
Well, some of the things that can change is, quite frankly, when you meet some of your heroes, and it can actually... but it can change how you look at their matches from there.
True.
When you realize what they put into a match, I can tell you from working with, like, Snuka, when you work a match with him, the match is not the same as watching a match later.
Did you feel happy getting out of that match alive?
I felt happy getting out of that locker room alive.
All right, so the next list is Jeremy Marshall from Rockin' Randy's Rockin' Wrestling Group. He had WrestleMania 2, 3, 5, 15, and 17. A lot of early ones. It's surprising to see kind of where some people's cutoffs are. Do you have any more listed?
Nope, that's all I got for my group.
All right, so Benji Fido from Rockin' Randy's Rockin' Wrestling Group had probably the earliest list of WrestleManias. It's 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
His name is Benji Fido.
That's what he puts on Facebook. I don't question it.
Benji and Fido. That's kind of two dog names.
Hey,
like
kayfabe.
Kayfabe is alive.
Scott from Ballintown has 3, 8, 10, 20, and I didn't write down the 4th.
Oh.
We'll just have to assume it's 1.
We're going to search in my phone real quick because I can do these messages quick.
Or we can just talk to you in between. Guys, while he's looking that up, please make sure you're tuning in to the Working Fans Podcast every week. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Apple. You can find us on Twitter to make us a list. And now here comes...
It was Mania 17.
Yes. And also you can message Joe about that t-shirt.
Yeah, if you want a t-shirt, guys, $10
Jesse from
a piece.
New Hampshire has 3, 14, 16, 17, and 21. If you want a t-shirt, feel free to email us at workingfanswrestlingpod@gmail.com. We'll figure out the details afterwards.
You can
Joe
reach
will
out-
single-handedly get back to you as he is spearheading this business about the t-shirts.
Obviously, I'm going to be the one doing this. I mean...
You can also reach out to us.
I just want to make that clear.
Hey, wait a minute. Don't we have a website they can reach out to us and get a t-shirt?
Joe,
also?
did you start that website?
WorkingFansWrestlingPod.com. I'll give you my list because, Jesus Christ, I'm putting in 24 hours today. We got 3, 6, 10, 30, and 31. I included 31 because that's almost where my love of modern WrestleManias just died. If that one was good, but anything after that, I mean, I was in Orlando for, was it 32? Or no, 32 was Dallas.
33, right?
33 was Orlando. And I was waiting for the Wrestling Revolver show to start for WrestleMania to get out. That's where The Undertaker fucking retired first. I waited till 1:10 a.m. for people to file from the stadium to that show. Scott can tell you, at one point I asked for the keys so I could go sleep in the car. And I was woken up by Michael Elgin, apparently went out the back door. Somebody locked it on him, and I woke up to the sounds of him banging on the door.
I'm just glad that's all he was banging on.
Yeah, not in any... It wasn't anything bad. It was almost like one of those things where you went outside, the door closes behind you, and it's, guys, let me in.
I'm just glad it wasn't a girl getting away from him.
Thank God we can edit that out. AJ, what's your list for top WrestleManias that won't
Top
get
WrestleManias.
litigated against?
This is an easy one, folks. Top WrestleManias. We've got WrestleMania 10, which is one of my all-time favorites, where we got to see Kona Crush versus Randy Savage.
You hated that match.
Oh, God, I'm sorry. It's the rest of the card that I liked. My bad.
Yeah.
Let's see. 14, which I went to see with my lifelong friend, Dave, where we got to see the beginning of the Steve Austin era. 17... because to me, that's where Austin and Rock were at their best, and it's the pinnacle of the Attitude Era, and I thought it was absolutely incredible. I like 19 because that's the last time Austin wrestled, and knowing that he gave it everything he had with the amount of injuries and the way he was beat up in that match, I just have a tremendous appreciation for that. And then my final WrestleMania is WrestleMania 30. To me, 30 is the last good WrestleMania. Anything after that has been trash.
Dave, we have one last list.
All
what
right,
did you
baby.
like for favorite WrestleMania?
My favorite WrestleMania of all time is WrestleMania 3. Randy Savage, Ricky Steamboat still holds up to me. It's the greatest WrestleMania match of all time. That being said, you also had Hogan and Andre, the most historic match of all time. And you also had Roddy Piper retiring for the first time against Adrian Adonis.
Rest in peace.
Very entertaining.
Both of them.
14, because I was there. They were my best friend, Jeff Way. And just kidding. But that was a great moment. We saw the beginning of the Austin era. It was huge. I really enjoyed that WrestleMania. That Boston crowd was electric. WrestleMania 17 is just one of the best WrestleMania of all time, bell to bell, from first match to end. My particular favorite match on that was actually Undertaker and Triple H. There you go, Joe. A little off-camera stuff here. And WrestleMania 30 is also one of my favorites because of the Daniel Bryan story, as many people pointed out. I do want to also say that WrestleMania 20 is my number 5th spot, which a lot of people didn't mention, but I did love it because it ended with Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero embracing, and at that time, that meant something to me, and that was a special card.
Sadly, it all ends with Chris Benoit, but now that we've made it to our top 3, it's easy to say 3, 10, and 14 made the cut. 30 should have made the cut for its Daniel Bryan story. But before I drop the top 3 on you, AJ wanted to say something. AJ, what do you got?
No, the only thing that I want to say is I want to make a recommendation because, me and Dave, we talked about this. We went to WrestleMania 14. If you want to truly enjoy a wrestling event, the key to it is to drive up with a third person who knows nothing about wrestling and spends the whole night just criticizing the main event.
It was a good time.
So now that 3, 10, and 14 made the list, what's the first one to cut? I'm going to assume, since you guys both went to 14, that 3 doesn't hold water to 10 or 14.
Here's the thing. It's actually probably wrong that 17 doesn't make this list because 14 is getting a lot of biasness because a lot of us in this area actually went to go see WrestleMania 14. So
14 popped up on a lot more lists than 17 from what I saw.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
I don't have your list written down.
As Sal would say, it is a sacrilegious almost not to have WrestleMania 17 in your top pick.
So 30 and 17 will be our honorable mentions.
Absolutely. So now, who to get rid of, though? I think 3 is the most historic WrestleMania of all time, no matter how you slice it. It's the highest grossing. I mean, Andre Hogan? That's the legendary match. Al Snow brought this point up 1.2. It's yeah, everybody talks about how great Ricky Steamboat and Randy Savage was that, but what drew the house? And it's a money-making business. And out of all these matches, was there bigger money, bigger business than Andre Hogan even to this day?
So what do you feel more comfortable with dropping between 10 and 14?
I say let's drop, I'm going to say drop 10. I know it's a classic we grew up on, but...
I agree with you on drop 10. I do want to say one thing about drawing the house on WrestleMania 3.
Go ahead.
I think for those of us that remember the segment in Piper's Pit when Andre the Giant tore the cross off Hulk Hogan and left him bleeding from where the cross scratched him.
You cried.
No, but I actually cheered for Andre, which you already know. However, it's one of the most iconic moments in the history of wrestling, and it is something that did build that house.
Yeah.
And you do have to give credit to Hulk Hogan and Andre for that match. But I agree with you in dropping 10.
Yeah, 10's got to go, unfortunately. I like 10, but sorry, guys.
Okay, we're dropping 10. So now we're between 3 and 14, and this is almost... Does your memory of going to the event top the house that 3 did?
So what are we talking
In
about
the
here?
historic match.
Is it our favorite time? Because my favorite time was WrestleMania 14. Going to a major event like that live was an absolute blast. Or is it what's the more legendary WrestleMania? I mean, yes, you're beginning the Austin era.
Pretend you're watching both of these on DVD.
What were the other matches on 14?
Owen Hart and Triple H did wrestle. There was a tag battle royal with the new Legion of Doom and Sunny.
All right, guys. So WrestleMania 3 wins.
I knew that question would.
I think it's a little bit of the bias of going because, we went to what? Money in the Bank?
Sure. Yeah.
We went to Tables, Ladders, and Chairs in Boston.
Yeah.
What made
we went to NXT. Yeah. We went to the Pritchard in New York.
What made it easy for me, and I'll be cut and dry with this to choose 3, is the simple fact is, does 14 even make the list if so many of us weren't there?
I don't know if Jesse from New Hampshire was necessarily there.
It was a great time to be a wrestling fan.
Maybe.
Yeah, it was a great time. But when you just look at what holds up for so many years, I just think you definitely got to
14 was in that golden age of... 14 was in the height of wrestling fandom, let's say.
Yeah.
WrestleMania 3 was more in that golden age, because was that the one where they did it from 3 areas?
No,
that was 2 the year before.
Yes.
That was 2, all right.
This Pontiac Silverdome.
So they're coming off the mistake of running 3 venues.
Right.
They end up in the Superdome.
Sure.
Yeah, WrestleMania 3 is just that classic.
Still holds the record.
Yeah.
So guys, you know what the music means.
Yeah.
WrestleMania 3 is the top.
AJ doesn't listen to the show. He doesn't know what that is. That's all right.
So WrestleMania 3 is the top WrestleMania. Thanks for joining us, guys. And hopefully next time you hear this, we'll be doing it with a couple more mics and a little bit cleaner. Thank you.
Guys, thank you for listening to the 531 here on YouTube this week. If you like what you hear, you can always find us on Anchor FM, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Podcsdt, Radio Public, and on the Apple Podcast where you can subscribe and also give us a 5-star rating. We appreciate you listening. We want your feedback, 531, and if you agree with us, if you disagree with us, we also want you to let us know. And let us know what your 531 would be. Come up with a top 5 and let us know, and we'll tell you why you're wrong. And in order for us to do that, please contact us on Twitter. We're at Fans Working. Facebook page, Working Fans Wrestling Pod. Email workingfanswrestlingpod@gmail.com. It's very important that you actually contact us on these platforms because we want this to be your interactive place to talk wrestling. Guys, thank you for listening to the 531 here on YouTube this week. If you like what you hear, you can always find us on Anchor FM, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Podcsdt, Radio Public, and on the Apple Podcast where you can subscribe and also give us a 5-star rating. We appreciate you listening. We want your feedback, 531, and if you agree with us, if you disagree with us, we also want you to let us know. And let us know what your 531 would be. Come up with a top 5 and let us know, and we'll tell you why you're wrong. And in order for us to do that, please contact us on Twitter. We're at Fans Working. Facebook page, Working Fans Wrestling Pod. Email workingfanswrestlingpod@gmail.com. It's very important that you actually contact us on these platforms because we want this to be your interactive place to talk wrestling.